So today we are going to discuss the concept of nested lists. So as we have seen, list is a mutable data type and we can declare list as in the square bracket format, or we can also write ll equals to list with the help of the list function. Since today we are going to discuss nested list, so what actually is a nested list? By definition, it will be a list within a list. So if I write L1 equals to, so if I give a square bracket symbol, so this is the first list outer. So inside, if I write some elements which are list themselves, it becomes a nested list. So if I use type function for checking what type of data it is, it will show me that it is a list type data. Now, how do we use this particular concept? For example, if we are using, suppose if we are tabulating the score of a cricket match that is going on, and suppose there are players one particular side which is batting in that particular match, and suppose we are tabulating say 5 overs, and we know that in each and every over there are 6 balls to be bowled, and in every over a batsman can score from 0 to 6 runs. So in this scenario, if you try to tabulate all this information in the form of a list, we will require a nested list. So we have to remember that it is a mutable data type. So in case there is a correction to be made, for example, the scorer has made some mistake, okay, so that also can be rectified later on. So that is why we are storing it in a list, which is a mutable data type. So I'm giving the name of the list as runs or runs scored, whatever we like. We are writing it like this, equals to, so this becomes my list itself. And what I'll be doing, I'll be giving some more lists which will be in this runs list. So first over, and then subsequently second over, third over, fourth over, and last fifth over. Now we know that a batsman can score from 0 to 6 runs in an over. So we can put some randomness in this by importing the random module. And what we can do is we can use the range function because there are 6 balls to be bowled. So what we'll be doing, we'll be adding in the first over list, that is F1. Then we'll be using the random function, random dot rand int, which takes 2 parameters, the lower and the upper, both inclusive. Since the possible runs that can be scored in a ball is between 0 and 6, so we are giving that option. So now we can see what is F1. So the batsman or the batsmen have scored 4, 6, 1, 5, 4, 2 in successive balls in the first over. So in the second over, they have scored this. Okay, this is just for explanation purpose. We will be just simply tabulating, but since we are writing a code, so that's why we are doing it in this way. I hope you are understanding. Instead of simply putting the numbers, this is much better. So we have F4 also, and finally the last over. So we'll just check now how it looks like. So now we have runs as the main list. So runs, F1 first over, second over, we'll have to put it in capital letter F1, F2, F3, F4, F5. So what is runs? So this is the nested list. Now what we can do with this thing is we can carry on with the discussion, and we can try to find the total run scored in these 5 overs by both the batsmen, and also we can try to find out the maximum run scored in a particular over. That means in which over the maximum run has been scored. So you must be knowing that if I write like this, max of runs, okay, it is telling me that in which particular which element is actually the maximum. So if I just add this, you will see that the total run scored in this particular over is greater than any other over. Okay, so this is this second over, I presume. So this is the second over. So that also we can find out with the help of our user defined function that we will be doing. So this user defined function will take this runs list as a parameter. Okay? So we are writing, say, test is the name of the function we are giving. We are naming it as A. So what this particular function is supposed to do, suppose this function is supposed to find out the sum total and the maximum run scored in a particular over. In which particular over that we will have to find out. So we will be returning these two values. So what we are doing now is we require a variable inside sum equals to 0. So we write for I in A. Remember that A is the parameter of this function, and in this parameter the nested list was passed. So when I am writing for I in A, it is actually going through each and every list which is within the list runs. So I need to actually traverse those independent lists also. So we write down for j in I, fine. So now what is happening? So when it is traveling, at this point of time, since sum was initially at 0, we can write down sum plus equals to, we can write j, fine. So sum will be accumulating all the sum total of all the runs. So at this point of time, we can actually print sum. So that will give me, so if I want only the sum, then this is fine. And what we also want is we want the in which particular over the maximum run was scored. So the maximum run was scored in which over, that can be found if I can find the individual over. So the individual over was actually given by I, for I in A and something like this. Okay, so we can actually, so max, when I'm writing this A is actually the total list. Okay, so when I write max runs, so it is actually telling me that in which particular over that particular max was written. So I can actually return this value, max runs. Actually, we are this runs is actually going into A. Okay, so runs, we should actually see that whether it is going taking A, because runs was passed to the parameter A. So we are returning that value. So now if I call this function test and it is taking the parameter runs, we can see that the total run scored by both the batsmen is 120, which we can actually add with the help of a calculator. And as usual, we can see that the function is returning that particular over in which the maximum run was scored. So, or rather, it is actually pointing to that particular over. So if we want to find out in which over, whether it is the first over, second over, so on, we can actually use the index value. We can take the index value and we can match the index value with that particular value of I. So it will tell us in which over it should be one more, because the index starts from 0, in which over the run score is maximum. So I hope this gives a clear idea about the nested lists, how we can actually use the nested list. So go through the video once and try to do, because it was done very slowly, and I hope you will be able to do everything in your machine by yourself and try to understand how it is